Hi there, I'm Mai Mixick, Deputy Director for Policy at Children First, here with our Vulnerable Youth Policy Director, Stephanie Arbutina, to talk about foster care, kinship care, and Disney. So, Stephanie, last Saturday, I went to go see Disney's live action remake of Lilo and Stitch. Brought my daughter with me, brought a friend and her daughter, and I cried buckets. Like, it was such a moving story. But the ending was really controversial. The internet is abuzz with discussion about it because, in addition to being about losing your parents, it's also about family separation because Lilo and Nani lose their parents at the beginning, and Nani, through a series of events, has to sign away custody of Lilo because she has dreams of her own. Like, she wants to go to college and become a marine biologist. So can you tell me a little bit, like, how does that vibe with you? Like, as somebody who has been a part of the child welfare system as a social worker, and then now as our vulnerable youth policy director.
Yeah. First, I just want to say to anyone watching this that if you've experienced family separation, this movie can bring up some really intense emotions. So just be aware of that before you see it. It really makes me think about the long history of family separations in the child welfare system. And basically what I mean by that is kids have been removed from their parents, not because they necessarily intentionally inflicted any harm, but because they were in poverty. Fortunately, I feel like we're in a space where things are starting to change. We've had legislation passed to that effect to keep families together, and it's happening more and more. And when parents, for whatever reason, can't be the primary caregiver, states, including Pennsylvania, are seeking out relatives to step in more and more.
And those relatives are referred to as kin, right? So who counts as kin?
It's an interesting word. Not everyone uses it.
Yeah.
It can mean a blood relative, like a grandparent or an aunt or uncle, or it can mean someone else who has a close relationship with a child, like a close family friend. Sometimes we say, chosen family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I heard that this was Disney's way of modernizing a plot line. They've been trying to do that with several of their live action remakes to a mixed bag of success. I heard this is the most successful live action remake. And what they're trying to do is create a future for Nani that doesn't include just being a parent. So, like, how easy is it to become a kin carer?
Right now, there are a lot of barriers to being a kin caregiver here in Pennsylvania. And basically, right now, if you want to be a kin caregiver, you must go through the same exact process as a stranger applying to be a foster parent. So if you're a grandma who wants to take care of your grandkids, you have to fill out all the same paperwork and go through the whole process, which can unfortunately mean being ruled out as the caregiver for not meeting those expectations. And it doesn't always have to be about safety. You could be ruled out for something like not having enough bedrooms that according to the licensing standards.
Oh, that's incredible. So you're telling me that somebody could not be eligible to be a kinship guardian because they don't have enough bedrooms in their house? That's crazy.
Yes, it's a lot of bureaucratic red tape right now.
And so I also know that in the movie, Lilo and Nani are Native Hawaiians, and they play into this storyline that America has, this dark history of taking kids away from their parents who are native like Native Americans and Native Hawaiians. And so I like the ending for the sake of like keeping the kids within their culture. So talk to me a little bit about the importance of kinship care as it relates to culture.
Yes, and you're right to highlight that history. It was so dark that federal law was created to preserve children's tribal identities. And it's also happened throughout other communities of color with the child welfare system. Culture is extremely important. Not only does culture help connect people to their families and communities, but children who have strong cultural identities also have better coping skills, and that can help them heal from trauma. What's great in this movie is that Lilo gets that cultural connection first from her own sister, and then she's able to continue that with the family friend that ultimately takes her in, and that's a really good thing.
Now, the reason why we're talking about this today is that there's apparently some legislation coming down the pipeline that's going to strengthen kinship care. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, this is really great. You know, of course, the movie, being a Disney movie, there are no aliens. It's not a perfect example of what happens.
There's no magic portals.
Exactly. But it does illustrate some of the very real barriers that kinship caregivers can come up against. Unfortunately, right now in Pennsylvania, we have a great senator from Berks County, Judy Schwenk, who's going to be introducing legislation to make it easier for kin to become caregivers with more support to get there and with less bureaucratic red tape in their way.
So what are the things we'd want to see in that legislation?
We are really hopeful that the legislation will include more support for kin to become caregivers, like perhaps helping them apply for benefits that'll help them meet the children's needs. But whatever the case, we'll be there on the front lines, making sure all kids in PA have what they need to thrive.
Thanks so much for talking about this with me today and unpacking it.
My pleasure.
Thanks.